as I'm sure you'll be wanting to get off and start your long weekends sooner rather than later. So welcome everyone. I hope you're all okay. Had a good 3 weeks since we last met. Um, First things first, homework. You'll notice in the chat there is a link, and it's in case you hadn't realised, it's now 5 years since Brexit. And many of you obviously veered away from the EU during that time and went off to look for opportunities in other parts of the globe. But we've seen recently that there's been a sort of a bit of a comeback to the EU. Many of you said the EU markets were on your target list for 2025. And that was echoed by Johnson Carmichael's recent survey, where the EU came out ahead of the UK and other global markets for priorities for this year. More of you are asking us for bespoke support for market entry and develop support in the EU. And we're also seeing strong buyer demand from EU distributors and supermarket chains. So despite the potential hurdles, we're seeing that buyers are looking for UK products, which is all good stuff. So we wanted to get your views on current trading with the EU, hence the survey, and be really grateful asking EU distributors to get their sentiments as well. So by the end, we should have a really good picture from both sides, supplier and buyer side, on how everyone's feeling about trading with each other. We're going to be presenting the findings on the 4th of June at the Summer Network Forum. And if you do help us out and complete the survey, we'll send you a copy of the accompanying report. So as I say, really grateful if you could do that, complete that survey for us. That would be brilliant. And then the second bit of homework, which links to the survey, is if you haven't got your tickets for the Summer Network Forum, it's only a month away. If you haven't had a chance to have a look and see what's on the agenda, we've got something for everyone, basically. So we've got the FDF coming along to give us a global trade outlook. We're going to be talking about omnichannel in China, how to win in Africa, trading with the US, and building a brand overseas. As usual, we'll have lots of case studies from members, which we know is something that you all really like to come along and learn from other people who've kind of been there before, fallen over, got back up again. So they're always those always go down really well. And then we're going to end the day with a Q&A with Gareth Thomas, brackets, no relation to me, who's the Minister for Exports. And this time, rather than him just coming along and kind of talking to us, you'll be able to submit your questions up front that we're going to put to him. So he's very kindly agreed to, make it much more interactive. So there's going to be lots going on the 4th of June. So again, if you haven't got your tickets, do book up for that. That's all available via the events page on the website. And now we're going to move away from the EU today to other parts of the globe.
Nicola, sorry to interrupt. You mentioned that the survey was in the chat. It might just be me, but I can't see it. So I just wondered if anyone else can see it or not.
Oh, I can see it, but that's no help to the rest of you. Can anyone else see it? No, okay.
Oh, okay. I'll leave that with you.
Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. I'm merrily asking you to all fill it in, but it's not actually there to fill in. So I'll put the link in there in a sec. But I'll do that during the next session. So yeah, because we're going to move away from the EU to other parts of the world, specifically CPTPP, which, as you know, UK is now part of. And we're delighted that Alice Almathan and Akweya Stewart Agyemang, sorry if I've mispronounced your surname, from DBT FTA Utilisation Team, brackets, lots of acronyms to unpack there, which I'm sure Alice and Akwe are going to do. So they've joined us today to tell us not just about what they're doing with FTA implementation, but importantly, they really want to get your feedback on what's working for you, what's not, general trading with FTA markets. So It's a great opportunity to feed back to government, not just challenges, but if you have got any success stories. But anyway, I'll leave them to tell you about the good work that they're doing and what they're hoping to get back from you. And also, I thought I was being really prepared, and Alice and Akweya were super prepared and had prepared an agenda, and there was some additional reading. Can you see that in the chat? No, you're blank faces or empty chat. Okay, I will go off and find that as well, but I'll hand over to Alice and Akweya. Welcome, and I'll go and get those links and put them in the chat while you're chatting to everyone.
Thanks so much, Nicola. Good morning, everyone. It's great to talk to you this morning. As Nicola mentioned, my name is Akweya, and my colleague Alice. We both work in the free trade agreement utilization team based in the Department for Business and Trade. I focus predominantly on CPTPP's application in Latin America, specifically Chile, Mexico, and Peru. And Alice leads on implementation in the team, which is one of the topics that we will be talking about today. I'm not sure, can you see the slides or have they disappeared?
They were there, but they look like they've disappeared.
Sorry, I've only just realised I'm going to have to unmute myself at one point too. So I just wanted to unmute myself first and I'll share again. I'm really sorry. At tech issues, I'll be back.
No problem.
Can you see those and hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Just say next slide, Akweya, and ready to go.
Yeah, if you go into the agenda, please. So yeah, as mentioned, today we're here to provide you with an overview of one of our trade agreements, specifically called CPTPP. And today we'll just be going through how it works and, most importantly, the benefits that businesses can derive from it. And then Alice will touch on provide some insight on implementation and the vital role it actually plays in intelligence gathering on market access or barriers to trade. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll come away with a little bit of better understanding of those topics, as well as DBT, as well as where areas where DBT can provide additional support during your export journeys. Next slide, please. So yeah, just a little bit of information on what free trade agreement utilization is. So our trade agreements play a vital component in our overall exports approach, and essentially what they're designed to do is either eliminate or reduce barriers to trade, and this is done through a number of different ways, through improved market access, enhanced protections around things such as intellectual property and investment, and also, as well as things such as lower or eliminating tariffs. But essentially all of those things are here to make it easier and more effective for you to trade internationally. Next slide, please. And then just some quick details on what the free trade agreement utilization team does. So we are a exports focused team, and we play almost like a middleman between the department and the business community. And we are essentially, our main aim is to ensure that the business community are aware of the FTAs and how to take full advantage of them. And we do this in a few ways, such as raising awareness, and that can be done through attending webinars such as this. It just allows us to speak directly to businesses and actually have those interactions and gain all of that intelligence that we can then take away back to the department, and things such as tools and knowledge. So we try to equip businesses with as much knowledge on the FTAs as possible, so that you can go away and hopefully utilize them and take advantage and trade internationally. Next slide, please. So a quick overview on what CPTPP is. So CPTPP is a plurilateral agreement. It covers 11 countries, the UK being the 12th. Some of its members include some of the world's largest current and future economies. And as mentioned, the UK is the first member to join CPTPP since its inception. And we signed the agreement back in 2023, ratified it in August 2024, and then entered into force in December 2024. So that means as a new member, we can now utilize the benefits of CPTPP and take advantage of those opportunities to trade. And just at the bottom of this slide, we have a few, oh, if you just go back one slide, Alice. Yeah, just at the bottom, we have some countries that have either expressed interest or have applied to join CPTPP. Of that list, Costa Rica is the only country that is currently going through the application process to become a new CPTPP member. So next slide, please. So when can businesses use CPTPP? So now that the agreement has entered into force, businesses can utilize CPTPP with countries that have ratified the UK's accession. So those are all of the countries in the green box. It's only Mexico and Canada that have not ratified yet. So what this means is that we cannot use CPTPP in those countries yet, although we do have existing bilateral agreements with those countries. So the UK-Canada Continuity Agreement and the UK-Mexico Continuity Agreement are the trade platforms that we can still use when working with those countries. Next slide, please. And so how does CPTPP interact with other agreements? So it works alongside any existing bilateral agreements. It doesn't override, it works alongside. So that means you can choose which provisions you wish to utilize, whether that be the existing bilateral agreement or the provisions within CPTPP. The only area that you will need to specify which agreement you're trading under is when it comes to access to preferential tariffs, so under rules of origin, essentially. And next slide, please. So yeah, now we'll look into some of the benefits that CPTPP provides. And I think we'll start off with tariffs. So for the food and drink sector, CPTPP is the large benefits are mostly centered around reductions in tariffs. And in terms of benefits, the food and drink industry have it has received the most benefits over existing bilateral agreements. So, for example, there is a 20% from a 20% existing tariff reduction. Sorry, let me start again. Under CPTPP, tariff reductions of 20% on non-alcoholic beer, for example, in Mexico will be reduced to 0. So they'll be completely eliminated once Mexico enters or ratifies the UK's accession. And then another benefit is under rules of origin. This means that if you export to more than one CPTPP market, you can use the same rules of origin, like the paperwork, to apply for that good in another CPTPP market. So this would hopefully reduce administrative burden, as well as hopefully leading to a direct reduction in cost as well. And then, as mentioned, this is an area where you will need to specify which agreement you are trading under, so whether that be CPTPP or the existing bilateral agreement. Another benefit is under accumulation, which it sounds quite complicated, but essentially what it means is that you are allowed to use content from other CPTPP countries as in your product, and it will still count as originating. Therefore, you'll still be able to gain preferential tariffs. So, for example, if you are a UK business and you import pork, for example, from Vietnam, which is a CPTPP member, it will be considered as originating in the UK because Japan is Vietnam is a CPTPP member. So when your end products, could be a sausage, is exported to Japan, for example, it will still benefit from those preferential tariffs under accumulation. And once again, this could hopefully lead to a cost reduction as well as a reduction in administrative burdens as well. Next slide, please. And yet we have some further benefits here. So things such as efficient releases on customs, from customs, sorry. So CPTPP promotes digital trade and encourages automation, sorry, of customs procedures amongst its members, which should hopefully make it easier to trade virtually. So an example of this is the guarantee of legal validity of digital signatures. This provides hopefully businesses with certainty when conducting digital transactions. Another example is advanced rulings. So CPTPP's customs provisions are designed to simplify and facilitate trade between members. As I mentioned, as an example, rules. Advanced rulings is a good example. What CPTPP allows is that you will receive a decision on the tariff classification of your product within 150 days. And then one final thing here is e-signatures are as valid as paper versions. So once again, going back to that point around CPTPP encouraging digital trade, the agreement actually does promote the use of electronic signatures during trade. So once again, really drawing on that promotion of international trading amongst members. Next slide, please. And yet some further benefits we have, for example, conformity bodies. So UK conformity bodies can obtain accreditations to test against other countries' regulations. So, for example, this means that your product can be tested against Peruvian standards in the UK. So that reduces time and cost associated with sending your product to abroad, essentially. So because you can do that in the UK now. And as well business travel. So improved business mobility in each of these markets allows for longer visa stays for a range of activities that can include trade roadshows, it can include meetings with investors or partners out in country. So this provides you with a longer opportunity to gain that insight into the market you wish to expand into. And next slide. Yep, and then just the last thing I would like to touch on. So back in March, I believe, I put together a product called, which focused on exporting to Peru, Mexico, and Chile under CPTPP, specifically for non-alcoholic beverage producers. It looks predominantly into the benefits that CPTPP provides and the opportunities as well. Additionally, we have some of our guidance listed on this page that you could refer to when wanting or looking to find out more information on our free trade agreements. Next slide. And then yes, and just further resources that you can use to connect with the department and find out more information. Thank you. I'll hand over to Alice.
Thanks, Akua. Okay, so I guess the second part of what our team does, beyond explaining what the benefits are and trying to encourage more exporters to export to CPTPP markets, one of the most important bits is that the countries that we're exporting to are actually implementing the FTAs as they should, well, as we've agreed, essentially. So the only way we know how things are actually going is by speaking to businesses such as yourselves on how things are working in practice. So as Nicola was saying right at the beginning, we're really keen to get specific feedback from exporters in those markets at the moment to understand if anything has changed, good news stories. We like to collect case studies too on companies that are doing really well under these free trade agreements to communicate that to other companies that might be able to benefit too. But this also includes identifying new market access barriers, and issues we can report under the different committees that we've got under the FTAs. So I guess what we say usually to businesses is that another benefit of CPTPP is kind of an ongoing dialogue with these markets. We've got much closer relationships with the governments in each market too, and it's much easier for us to kind of report any issues that aren't working as they should, or areas of the agreement that potentially could be improved. This also includes any feedback on the actual guidance that we have and making sure that we can understand how we can export or support exporters even further. So we're really keen to kind of collect that feedback, and the way we do it is in a number of ways. The first one is we're really kind of open and happy to have one-to-one meetings with exporters to kind of share any issues they might be having that might have a more sensitive kind of area of their kind of production and business development more generally, and we'll then bring together like the right policy teams and kind of our bilateral teams to raise those at committees. However, we've also in the past set up roundtables where we find this really useful to kind of identify common issues or kind of exporters to share common challenges that they might be having under these free trade agreements in these countries. So one of our suggestions for today, if there is interest, would be to potentially set up another session. Today was more of a bit of an intro, and just to say that we're really keen to work with you and kind of share that feedback more specifically and show what our team does. But maybe in the coming weeks, we're also, with the upcoming committees that we have with different countries, we would be more than happy to set up different sessions to gather that feedback if there is any and if there's interest. So at the Q&A, very kind of keen to hear your reflections and thoughts about this offer. And then finally, basically everything that Acquia has really well presented just now, we are very kind of keen to get out and about too at events and kind of different ways of actually speaking to businesses directly. So yeah, very kind of interested in participating or actually going as a speaker or kind of collecting feedback at networking receptions or basically any kind of events that you might be organising within your trade associations and kind of general business development. Obviously within reason, our resources aren't kind of infinite, but yeah, very kind of happy to continue working with you and collaborate in that space. We'll share the slides at the end, but just to say you've got our contact details here. And I guess for this session, we're just really keen to kind of, yeah, speak to you directly, open up a bit of a Q&A and answer any questions. So I'll stop sharing my slides because I can't see any faces right now. And hopefully my computer will work again. Okay. So yeah, I guess open up the floor to any questions, general reflections, any feedback that you might have on your current operations within those markets. But yeah, I'll stop there.
Great, thanks both of you. I think it's really useful that you've come along and just kind of updated on everyone, but also this kind of feedback and providing that access to you directly on what's working and what's not. Obviously, it's something that we talk about on these sessions and other workshops quite frequently. And I think one of the most recent comments from David, he's not on the call today, his colleague Rupert's here, was that the FTAs are it's great that there's a tariff reduction, but they're not a sort of open sesame to suddenly let's all go rushing off to these markets. So maybe I don't know if other people share that sentiment, what other people's experience has been, and I should stress that Alice and Akewa are really interested in getting the bad and the ugly, not just if there is any good, but that's great. But they do really want to know. Don't be shy if you're having an awful time or you think that there aren't any benefits. They do really want to know that. So so don't hold back, basically. So I don't know if anyone's got any comments or questions. This is an opportunity to fire away.
I'll go first if that's okay.
Yeah,
I'd like to introduce myself because it's the first session I've done. I've just joined Tato as Group Export Director after 5 years in Britvic Export. And I really didn't know you guys existed to do these forums before, because the pain I've had dealing with Spain over the last couple of years has been absolutely outrageous. But I've had some really good support in the background from the likes of Beatrice in the embassy, and people like that. But it's really encouraging to know that we've got a network now where we can kind of flag any issues, because this stuff happens all the time. So yes, you might be on speed dial as I learn the wonderful world of crisps. But yeah, lovely to meet you all. Thank you.
You too. Really funny you say that. I was based in Madrid for 5
Okay.
years
Okay.
before this role, and yeah, completely. Well, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So just to mention that, but also something we didn't mention is our focus of our team has been CPTPP and continues to be CPTPP, but we've got a mini team within our team that's also starting to look at Europe. So
Yeah.
just to say that, yeah, it is on our minds, and kind of what Nicola said about the feedback surveys and other bits, we're also actually really interested in that kind of intel too. So yeah, we'll not take anything, but we'll then kind of redistribute it in the team. So as much feedback as possible would be brilliant to just have and collect in that way. So great to meet you too.
Guardian angels, thank you.
You have to start bribing with crisps, Mark.
That can be arranged.
Anybody else got a comment or question?
I just really
Katie?
had a
Yeah, go.
comment, more that, sorry, Katie Burrow from Nairns. It's more that, and Nicola, you touched on it, that David had also mentioned, that it doesn't automatically mean when we have a free trade agreement, it's useful, but you still have to have a consumer need for the product in market, and you still have to find that route to market and do all of the work. So it helps in a way in that you can, potentially reduce tariffs, or there's minimal tariffs, and which is really helpful, definitely, when you're working out the value chain. But you still have to do all of that other work. It's such, and for us at least, it's quite a small part. So just because there's an FTA, it doesn't make us think, oh gosh, we should rush to that market. We still are looking for markets that work for the products, and there's a consumer need for the product. So it's almost, it's a great addition, but it's not the be all and end all for us. I think for other industries where it can be, a real barrier to trade, where there's, it really stops companies from dealing in whatever it happens to be, industrial parts or something, then it can really open up doors, and it can mean that, suddenly a whole part of the world becomes an option. But I think for food and drink, certainly for us, I'll only speak for us, but it's not a sort of, yay, let's rush to forever. It doesn't really quite work like that for us, at least. But it is helpful to have. Don't get me wrong. It certainly, when we were able to reduce the tariffs in Australia and New Zealand, then that was helpful. So, but it's mainly that than any of the other stuff that helps us, I think. So, yeah, that's a comment from me.
I think I completely agree with Katie. I think that it's really interesting that free trade agreements are, hugely beneficial, but, and it's the big but, you still have to go through product registration, and in Vietnam it's different to Thailand, it's different to Laos, it's different to, and those are incredibly tricky, and the requirements for testing in each territory is so different. And if there was any way of getting a standardization of what is required, ingredient testing, and the way the ingredient, not the way it's listed, obviously that's going to change in every territory with every different language, but the breakdown, all these countries in the Far East certainly require a breakdown of 100% of the ingredients, and bizarrely we don't seem to do that as a standard. You look on the back of a packet and it doesn't add up to 100. And well, what's the other bit? Well, that's air or water or something that doesn't really count. Well, it does all count, and it really matters in the Far East, and it matters around the world. So, whilst FTAs are brilliant and we love it, the standardization of the actual requirements for food and drink registration would help, I think, enormously as well. It's never going to happen.
Well, maybe not a classic grade, but what I would say, going back to that kind of dialogue now that we have with these member countries more than we did before, we've got certain teams that cover the technical barriers to trade side of things, where it's kind of that recognition, or kind of just asking for further information, or potentially, asking for like how things are going, or like how we can get better information from those standards within the CPTPP countries. That's something that if there's a particular issue with one country, we could potentially question or try to agree. Obviously the mutual agreements can be kind of a tricky one, which have to kind of be in line with the rest of the world, and further geopolitical kind of issues, of course. But it's kind of that type of intelligence is also really useful, just to make our teams aware that if there's a particular kind of double testing requirement, or kind of something that is going fairly beyond what should be in line with international trade, we're kind of really interested in just looking into that too, for our kind of policy teams. We'll be having those discussions with the government of Vietnam, or those in kind of other countries in Asia Pacific.
I don't want to go into specifics, but in actually it's going to Thailand, we're exporting a product which is naturally gluten-free. It's none of the ingredients, but it has to be gluten-free tested. And it's like, hold on, nothing going into this whole facility is in any way touches gluten, and the whole facility is gluten-free, but it needs to be tested in country, which is that's their standard. That's what it has to be. I accept that. But it is another barrier, and that's just one example, and that is repeated in our experience frequently.
On that's I get that's not a CPTPP country, so that is not under our remit. But I just wonder if our wider team that do cover market access barriers more generally across the globe would find that interesting, if that's been reported to DBT in any way. We tend to have like a website where those things can be reported to, if that would be helpful, on general market access barriers, in case they're not aware of it, which I'm assuming they might be, but just in case.
Alice, just picking up on Rupert and Katie's points there about it's not a sort of panacea, and that at the end of the day you still got to find customers, buyers, consumers, etc. Is there an intention that part might become more joined up, so that, say for example, CPTPP markets are opening up and barriers are being removed, but linking that in with the access to commercial opportunities, I think would be really helpful for companies, if it's sort of, it's all sitting there, not just here are the access barriers which are going to be removed, but here are more introductions to companies, etc. Do you think that there's an intention to sort of join all of that lot up?
Yeah, so we're trying. So our team, beyond doing the external engagement, external events, and speaking to in forums such as these, or going to events, our team also builds the capability within the department. So we're kind of sharing the kind of, what does the FTA mean to all sector teams, to our kind of export support service. We work really closely with our colleagues in overseas posts. So it's kind of trying to link all that export support services that the department offers, to give that additional kind of, this is what the FTA can do to certain sectors. And it's all through that we kind of add the value in a sense. And we're kind of very conscious that the FTA won't be the end all and kind of the only reason why exporters will go to that market. But we now more linked up with our export support services. When receiving an inquiry of a company that's interested in, let's say, Australia, they'll have the relevant links and information that beyond, if they even don't know about the FTA, they'll be letting exporters know that there is one, and that if they do manage to get in touch with new distributors, and that's what the kind of our colleagues at Post tend to do, they'll have that in mind too, like, okay, this can actually be good for your FTA, and we are building in that kind of information and kind of letting our internal business facing teams know on how to do it. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but we are trying to bring the whole thing together in terms of that link between trade policy and negotiators that Akira was mentioned earlier, and what our general support is as DBT, by using those multipliers and amplifiers of the messages of what the FTAs do and don't do.
Yeah, I think that would be really useful. The more it's sort of in one place and it's joined up.
Including, I haven't mentioned our great international trade advisors. I don't know if any of you actually have worked with them, but again, we've got a big network of those across England, and our DBT Nations teams too, where we're trying to kind of also get the message across beyond London, and kind of kind of throughout a whole export support system. So that's what we try to do also internally by setting up teach-ins and making sure that everyone knows what to say about FTAs.
Great, thank you.
Nicola, can I ask a couple of questions just to put in? I agree with everything the other guys have said about access to markets, the commercial reasons for going there, consumer demand, blah, blah, blah. And the CPTPP, difficult to say, seems to have a lot of varied locations and markets and geographies around it. For us, some we're already in, some we're not. But it doesn't take out, for example, as other guy said about registration processes, and as an example, it's just taken us 18 months to get registration live in Brazil. And we have to have strip stamps, excise duty stamps sent back by the distributor for us to apply in the bottling halls here before we send the product back. But that whole process is from the time we agreed the commercial piece, value chains, etc., has taken 18 months to get registration completed. So, and that's just one, eye opener in that it's not going to change overnight. I think for Mexico, we're struggling because of 85% tariffs on alcoholic products at the moment. So it's nice to hear that non-alcoholic products have been benefited, but it's a significant barrier to entry. Even though we've got significant demand from upmarket premium retailers in Mexico, we're having to take product out of a bond in Miami to get it into Mexico cheaper in order to hit some sort of consumer price point. It just doesn't work. Hopefully in the future that might change. The other point is really about connectivity between DBT and the devolved governments. So we're based in Wales. We have heavy input from the Welsh government export team, who seem to live from year to year based on their funding, based on what they can or can't offer. So they can only offer from now until the end of March 26 support along the similar lines of travel to exhibitions, participation in UK pavilions. They'll set up their own Welsh pavilion in certain places. And I'm a big advocate for more consolidation, more collaboration between the Welsh government export teams and DBT. We have significant support already from the DBT folks. We've had the LATAC people come to the distillery a few times. We've had the trade export industry people come, ministers come, but there is still this, I feel, lack of coordination. I don't know what it's like for Scotland, but there will be distillers up there who are crying out for the same sort of collaboration and commonality in using, let's call it, UK government resources in the best way. And that's just, I see the Welsh government investing in trade missions on top of a trade mission being run by DBT. Why spend the money twice, two different people, two different sets of rules for participation and stuff like that? So it's just a little bit of a cry and a request to don't forget about, and you mentioned England, don't forget about your friends down the M4. We are there. I'm not there, but we are there, and everyone's struggling right at the moment. So the world is a very, very difficult place for the spirits industry in particular. We need all the help we can. I've seen just today another 4 distillers go out of business or go into administration or closing down production or letting people go, even up in the Isle of Harris or big Irish distillers, whatever. So the industry is not on its knees, but suffering big time. The big multinationals are no different to us. So, and opening up markets by removal of tariffs is a great thing, but it's making sure that we could coordinate in the right way. And I think I sort of put some of that in the feedback in the survey that done to Nicola already. So, and I'm a continued voice to tell that to the Welsh government. We've met with them in Swansea 2 weeks ago, so they have the same message.
Thank you so much, Simon. In order of those points that you've mentioned on the Brazil situation, similar comment to the one before in terms of the link that Aquia shared in the chat of reporting the market access barrier kind of issues. I'm not sure if DBT is aware of that already, or if you've reported it or interacted.
They are, because they were helpful in terms of setting us up with a distributor in the first place. So they're very, and we get a lot of support from the LATAC community within DBT. We're on first name terms with them and stuff like that. But it's just a comment about the length of time that process takes, and that will be country specific. So it will be different in Chile to be what it will be different in Mexico, what it will be different, and it's just a recognition of it's not a Pandora. It's not suddenly going to open up a nirvana for everyone, for everything.
That's really good. But I guess any specific feedback that you might
Yeah.
have on Mexico, Chile, and Peru as CPTPP countries where we're now having more ongoing dialogues, and we're really trying to make sure that CPTPP
Yeah.
is being implemented as it should. Just let us know, or
Yeah.
kind of it'd be great to get that specific
Okay.
feedback to make sure we're aware of it and seeing how widespread the issue could be and how we can make a bit more business and evidence gathering to share that with our policy teams and make sure that it is working for companies.
Yep.
On the last point, it's a really tricky one. I'm mentioning England because it's just where the ITAs are at the moment, but we actually have one person in our team that's an account manager for all those kind of making sure we are working with the devolved governments and administration. So we do have a strategy of going out and have done these types of events and making sure we are supporting everyone across the UK in this. So we are trying to do our little bit, but completely take that point, and we'll include that in our general feedback too, for our readouts and kind of internal information sharing as a kind
Thanks.
of general request. So thank you for that.
Great.
Hi. Sorry, yeah, Sarah
Sarah.
Henderson Taylors of Harrogate Heinekla. Thanks, Alice, for the explanations and things. Just on the back of Katie's comments, fully, endorse what she said. I think though, when you have current distributors, and I know I've approached some of mine who are kind of CPTPP members and said, look, I think there could be an opportunity there. We could look at X, Y, and Z. This is what it's saying. Certainly some of the comments I've had back is like, oh no, we don't want to rock the boat, Sarah. Let's just keep things as they are because everything's coming in as we want it. So I think for me, there's a challenge to get current distributors on board as well. That was just a little bit of feedback I've had. I mean, I'll keep pushing them if there's going to be benefits in terms of rules of origin and what have you. But it was just kind of a small bit of feedback I've had with current distributors. It's just like, don't want to rock the boat. Let's just leave things as they are.
That's really interesting. Is that more like which free trade agreement to use in terms of claiming that tariff? Okay. And is that in a particular market, or are you seeing that across the whole?
Certainly Singapore and Japan were the two that I had kind of conversations with about it. And that may be down to the quality of distributor, in fairness, but
that's really interesting. It was good to be aware of. Thank you for that. Okay, well, as I said at the beginning, we're really kind of open and happy to have one-to-ones if you would like to share information that might not have been appropriate for this forum, if you want to go into more specifics, but also if we're starting to notice a few trends, what our team is trying to collect as much business intelligence as possible, and we might set up specific roundtables to cover certain issues, like we are hearing about certain things maybe related to labeling or kind of general trends that we might want to bring our policy teams into, as we're not the technical experts for some of these things. So just to flag that that's an option, we'll probably liaise with Nicola to see which is the best way to do that and kind of share our contact details and kind of future discussions that are similar, maybe with some more targeted questions going down to like the details that we could not cover today. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, and do feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, thank you for having us.
Great, thank you both. I think it's been really useful, and really, it's great to have the two-way dialogue. And as you said, it doesn't kind of stop here. There'll be hopefully lots of opportunities for members who are on the call today, and obviously other members who couldn't make it to, if you want to have a one-to-one, just you can either drop Alice a note or me, and we can get that set up. And as those group sessions, you've got a bit of a timetable for that. We'll obviously push that out, and anyone who wants to join can. That would be great. So yeah, thanks very much for coming along. And just on labelling, which Alice mentioned, leads very nicely into some of the events we've got coming up over the next 3 weeks. So before we meet again, Ashbury, who most of you know, are doing a roundtable session on labelling compliance, some of the latest developments on the 7th of May. So that's next Wednesday. Also, in terms of events, we've Unsworth. I think Ian is it Ian dropped off? Is he still here? No, I think he might have dropped off. So Unsworth are running a Port of Calais tour on the 12th of May. 3 of our members are going along, so obviously they will be able to report back. But if anybody does want to go, I think they still had a couple of spaces left. So if you fancy a day trip to Calais, either contact Ian Ainsley or me, and we can get that sorted. Also, linking back to what we've been talking about this morning, we've got our in-market partners in LATAM doing a market entry workshop on the 13th of May. So make sure you sign up for that if LATAM is on your horizon. And obviously, in light of what we've been talking about today, maybe it has kind of might have risen up the priority list. And then Gary, who's on the call, last time we met, mentioned about the new buyer finder service that Registrar Corps are launching, and he's actually going to run a session on that on the 14th of May, Gary, which will actually, as I understand it, to be quite a practical session, having a look at the new tool that you've developed and to help companies find buyers in the US market. So anyone who's targeting US, definitely sign up for that one. And then we've got also coming back to closer to home, on the 20th of May, we've got a how to access and succeed in the Nordic markets with Ross, who many of you know, who's our in-market partner in the Nordics. So we've got lots going on between now and the next session. As always, go to the events page on the website and you can sign up for everything there. So I think that was kind of it in terms of from me. We haven't got Karen with a show update, but don't forget shows. I know PLMA is at the end of this month, but if you've got show planning on the agenda, make sure you have a look and see which trade shows we're going to, and obviously have a chat with Karen and Rachel if you want to discuss any of the shows for rest of 25 and into 26. So did anyone have anything that they wanted to raise in terms of challenges? Any good news stories? Always love a good news story. We don't often celebrate success, but if anyone's got anything that they've achieved and want to tell us about, that's also good. No, you're keen to get off and make the most of the sunshine and get off on your long weekends. Okay, well, we'll leave it there. As I say, just a plea before you do kind of kick back for the weekend to head to the link, which is now in the chat, to complete the survey and also book up for the Summer Network Forum. And we'll see you back here on 23rd of May. So thanks very much for coming. Thanks very much to Alice and Akiwa for joining us in a really interesting session. And as I say, it will be just the start of a longer dialogue, hopefully. So, and see you all again soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.